Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 10 out of Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me. This video is my reaction to the Netflix documentary, Tiger King. And this is one of the gayest, whitest, white trash. I had no idea what it was about before I watched it. I've seen this guy's mugshot all over Instagram. Everybody's talking about Carole Baskin. I'm wondering who she is. What is this about? And, quarantine vibes. I'm scrolling through Netflix trying to find something to watch. I see it. I'm like, you know what? Let me find out what this is about. And I had no idea, like I said, what I was getting into. Whenever you feel the slightest chance that you're finally starting to understand what direction this is going in, what's about to happen next, it completely takes a turn into the other direction and just dives off into some other craziness. We're gonna break down the main people in this story and the crazy cases behind their names, starting with none other than Joe Exotic.
I have tried drugs through the younger years of my life. I am broke as shit. I have a judgment against me from some bitch down there in Florida.
Run.
Don't move.
Now, Joe Exotic is an Oklahoma man. Growing up at an early age, I think he said around 13, he found out he was gay. And his dad made him shake his hand in front of his mother and promised to never go to his funeral. And that, fucked with his head, and he ended up driving a truck off of a bridge or a car, whatever it was. He broke his back, and for the next 5 years, he was pretty much in recovery, moved down to Florida. He was by West Palm Beach. His neighbor had an exotic animal, whatever, and that's how he started getting into exotic animals. That's how he grew that love for being around these types of animals, and he took that back to Oklahoma with him, where he started his own zoo. Now, this was a private zoo, and pretty much everybody that lives there looks like they live in a trailer park. So you got Joe. You have his first husband, who looks like a straight meth addict. Then he got a second husband, some kid from California, that also turned out to be on drugs. And then you have all the other staff, but that's how it is. It's like a zoo full of misfits. He hires people out of prison, whatever. Now, he has his main enemy, Carole Baskin, who also has, similar to a zoo, a sanctuary.
I consider that bitch to be one of the biggest terrorists in the exotic animal world right now. Carole Baskin or PETA crawl this fence and try and hurt any of my animals again, you can guarantee I'm gonna put a cap in your ass the first time to make you squirm around on the ground, and then I'm gonna put a bullet right between your fucking eyes.
So the only difference between the two is Joe is trying to get money off of tigers and exotic animals, versus Carole has a sanctuary where she doesn't have to pay anyone to work. They volunteer. And it's not about having them in cages, it's about giving them a safe place to live. Joe is against her because she's pretty much doing the same shit that he's doing. She's just doing it in a different way and making it look differently to everybody else. But they aren't the only ones though. So then you have another guy named Doc Antle. And Doc has his own little cult that work for him, that live on his property, and they run his zoo.
Dr. Antle, he has 4 or 5 wives.
Well, he has 3 or 4 girlfriends.
He has like 9 wives.
How many wives does Doc Antle have?
I don't fucking care.
And then you have another guy named Mario. I don't know his last name. I can't pronounce it. But Mario was one of the biggest drug dealers in Florida, and he was actually bringing cocaine inside of snakes.
Mario Tabraue and his father Guillermo are accused of operating a 10-year top-dollar family drug enterprise.
The money coming in suitcases to the bank, I did that.
Push come to shove, an ATF agent gets found out about, the body gets dumped on his property, and him and a friend decide to mutilate the body, cut him up, and burn him.
He was an ATF informant. The guy who worked for me shot him, and they panicked and dumped him on my farm. I had a crazier partner than me. He says, let's just cut up and burn him. So we burned him.
He ends up going down. He's sentenced to 100 years in prison, and he wins his appeal and is out in 12 and continues to have his own private zoo. What the fuck type of industry is this? Like, I thought the zoos were peaceful, but in every different situation, there's crazy madness going on. Carole Baskin had a husband. The man disappears. He's gone missing. How the fuck did this happen? This dude was a millionaire. He goes missing. Now she becomes a millionaire.
We could ever get the law to go in there and dig up that septic tank, I promise you he's underneath that damn thing. Hey, Carol, it's a voice from your past. Get me the fuck out from under the septic tank.
His body was never found. It was rumored that it was put under a septic tank on her property, buried on her property, or even better, she fed him to the tigers. And it says in the video, tigers' stomachs are so acidic, it breaks down bone. But her husband goes missing, and in the state of Florida, after 5 years, they can be declared dead. So 5 years and 1 day later, she has him declared dead, puts all the property under her name, and now she has a mass net worth. And it was rumored to be anywhere from $5 to $20 million. And there's all this speculation that she killed him because he was letting people know they were arguing. He was scared of her. He was trying to get a restraining order. All of these little things. And I mean, when they met, she was 20. He was already in his 40s. Which is some creep shit. I don't know how they were rocking back in the 80s or whatever. But that's some creep shit. And they met on Nebraska Ave. And everybody knows Nebraska Ave for motels, drugs, and hookers. That's all it is. That's how it was when I lived in Tampa. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure in the 80s it was similar to that. Now, Carol is like fucking obsessed with anything to do with tigers. Every decoration in her house, all the clothes she wears is tiger prints. And then you have Joe Exotic, who dresses up like a cowboy, but he's openly gay. He has a gun on him everywhere he goes, and he lets you know it's not for the tigers, it's for people, in case anybody try to get at him. And one thing you realize quick is everyone in this story, from Joe to Doc to Carol, they're all well armed. The only one that didn't say he had a gun was Mario, because obviously he's a convicted felon. But if he was a massive drug lord, I'm sure he's got security that got guns, and you know, it is what it is. If you pay attention, you see how cult-like all of these private zoos are. Joe Exotic, he used the animals to pretty much reel in young men. Whether it was the money, the animals, his first husband, he met him when he was very, very young, married him young, and pretty much just kept him happy through the money or whatever it is, the lifestyle. He enjoyed it, and he also kept him high on drugs the whole time. He ends up getting another husband, and it's the same thing. He's a young kid, 19 or 20. He keeps the kid high, he keeps the kid happy, buys him whatever he wants, and he gets what he wants out of it. And now, you know, the husband, the first one, is saying that he was never gay. He was more so just addicted, and he stayed in the environment that he was in. The second husband, unfortunately, killed himself. It sounds kind of weird because they said that he was very comfortable playing with guns, pointing guns at people. He made the comment that, oh, you know, a Ruger doesn't fire without the clip in it. He put a gun to his head, and the gun went off, and he killed himself. Whether it's accidental or purposeful, I'm not sure, because they were saying he was complaining on how he isn't allowed to go anywhere. He isn't allowed to socialize. He's not allowed to leave this zoo. He's basically under the control of Joe Exotic. And whether accidental or not, he took his own life. Now, within like 2 months, Joe goes and marries a complete other guy. Like it's no issue. And he has a sanctuary set up for the husband that passed away. But he just seemed to move on. And whether that was an emotional cover-up, he just needed a different form of attention, or once again, he's just seeking out young men, which seems like a predator would do so. You know, you're using your money and your influence to pretty much get young men to do whatever you want and turn into your slave. And then you look at Doc Ansel. Doc was doing the same thing, but with women.
We have people that have joined our apprentice program over the decades. These are apprentices that come on generally as teenagers, live on the preserve, many of whom have stayed on for decades themselves.
He would go after the young women, 18 to 20, virgins or close to virgins, and have them come in, have them have sex. He would change their name. He would get them implants. He would give them specific outfits to wear to match whatever he wanted them to look like. Buy them their own house on his property next to the other wives' houses. And they're one big happy family. And then you got Carole Baskin, where it's her and her new husband. Both of them seem fucking emotionless. And they just have this, oh, we're happy, peaceful people. Let me tell you something. You can tell Joe is batshit fucking crazy the second you see him. You can tell. Doc, you can tell he isn't all the way there either, but he's got his shit under control. He's got more money than Joe Exotic, so, you know, his zoo looks a little bit more cleaned up. He lives a little bit more lavish lifestyle versus Joe is very rugged with everything that he does. And then you have Carole that tries to portray that she isn't crazy, that she is peaceful. She does it for the love of the tigers, the community, the sanctuary, volunteers. That bitch is fucking crazy. That I don't believe a fucking thing that she didn't have nothing to do with her husband's murder. No way in fucking hell. I don't believe it. I'm not going for it. But the thing is, that's, you know, important to point out, is her and Joe Exotic were affecting each other's money. He started using her logos and he started pretty much boycotting her business the same way that she did to his. He used to go to malls with exotic animals. She would have her following call the malls and get all that shit shut down, fucking up his money. And clearly, regardless of who we're speaking on, taking care of tigers is not cheap. Joe Exotic breaks this down, especially when he speaks on what he feeds them. In Walmart, if you take meat from the freezer to the register and you don't want it, it can't go back. So all of that meat was getting thrown out. Joe was going to pick it up and bring it back to his zoo. Whatever meat was considered real good, his workers were allowed to sift through it and take it home to their trailers on the property. And the rest of the meat, they used to feed to the fucking tigers.
Obama, Congress, this is a challenge for you to come up with a solution so America can eat without wasting all this and worrying about people getting sued.
But between Joe and Carole, they're both going against each other. She ends up suing him and he ends up losing a shitload of money, takes on another partner, and that's pretty much the downfall of Joe Exotic. He made a ton of threats to her on video. He's speaking to guys that are pretty much taking over his zoo. He's bringing them in as partners because he's desperate for the money, and he just slowly falls apart, which is where the whole murder for hire comes into play. And they were able to get Joe Exotic out of the way because he always talked about killing Carole Baskin. And when everything came about, that's how he was able to get arrested. He was arrested for the murder to hire because his business partners started cooperating with the feds. And all of them turned against him because they all had shit on them. Whether it was directly involved with the zoo or their own type of private lifestyle, they all had dirt. So they all pinned it on Joe to get him out of the way, therefore trying to clear their name. So for Carole Baskin, it was a win-win because her main enemy is gone and was sold out by his employees, which makes everything that she said seem truthful. Oh, well, you see what happened? He was trying to kill me. He sent somebody to kill me, and this is how it played out. So she gets to act all peaceful and not crazy. Now Joe goes to jail, but now Joe wants to cooperate and put all the dirt out there about everyone that he was working with. And in the end of the documentary, it breaks down how everyone that turned their back and snitched on him, they still may be facing some form of prosecution based on the crimes that they admitted to, the participation that they had, or the things that they were doing behind the scenes. Now, me personally, I don't believe prison is going to be good to Joe Exotic. He went to federal prison. If he ends up going to a real prison, not one of the lows, maybe even a medium, they're going to, he's going to be a victim. He's not going to enjoy life in there whatsoever. If he goes to like a lower custody federal prison, I'm not really that familiar with the feds. But if he goes somewhere soft, he might be good. He's gay, so he's not going to have an issue with that. Versus in some places, just that alone will make him a target. Not only that, but he is cooperating with the police. He is trying to put charges on other people. He is trying to bring everyone down that was involved with his case. For everyone else, you can see the motive behind why they told on him. And I think a lot of Joe's case is exaggerated. They put together the animal charges with the murder because of the simple fact that people get killed every day. But the second you abuse an animal, everyone is up in arms against you. That's a bigger deal to people. You fuck with an animal, they're freaking the fuck out. You kill a person, and that happens all the time. I believe a lot of things were thrown in there to secure a conviction. I believe that there may be a possibility of an appeal, but I'm not sure if he actually has the money to produce a lawyer to really dive deeper into his case. As far as Carole Baskin, man, I ain't saying she killed her husband, but I don't believe a thing that bitch says. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Doc Ansel seems like a crazy motherfucker, but if all the females are of age and he's, 6 wives rocking out and he's good on paper, it is what it is. But they said actually his compound was raided after the documentary, and that, he was accused of euthanizing animals, and he had a crematory on his zoo where he would just burn them up after they were deemed not profitable, which is basically after, they're a certain age or size. Nobody can really be around them. They have to be behind a cage because they're dangerous at that point. Mario, the drug lord, shout out to him. I ain't got shit bad to say about him. You know what I mean? He did his time. It doesn't seem like he fucking told on anybody as far as I know. And he had 100 years, got out after 12, and he still has a love for the animals. Joe Exotic, everybody turned on that man. Everybody turned on him. Everybody told on him. Everyone pointed the finger at him. I think in some way, shape, or form, karma is going to come back on them, and that a whole lot more is going to be released on this whole documentary, this case. I think it's far from over. If you haven't seen the documentary, I told y'all a lot about it, but there's so much more that you can watch and see for yourself. I highly recommend you go and watch it. And from what I heard, they're going to be actually adding episodes to the documentary. So we'll see what happens. But hey, it's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all. Y'all rocking with me. Till next time.